Good morning, this is Rashad Mitchell comes to you live from my YouTube channel as I continue on a part series of The Week That Was, college football's history in review, the 1956 college football season. Now, what I want to do is read the overview of what took place during the 1956 college football season and then go over the week one, the games that were played in the first week of the college football season 1956 and call the video. That'll be it for the video. So now, the 1956 college football season was the year of the Oklahoma tornado, Iowa wing tee, and the Pacific Coast scandal. Like a Great Plains tornado, Bud Wilkinson's Oklahoma Sooners swept across the nation, destroying 10 foes by an average margin of 41 points. The Sooners gained 481.7 yards per game, 90 yards more than any other team in the nation. The defense yielded a low 193.8 yard average. Halfbacks Clendon Thomas and Tommy McDonald each scored more than 100 points as the team built impressive point totals. Oklahoma visited the worst ever defeat at South Bend on Notre Dame, 40-0. Delivered the biggest loss in 50 years to Texas, 45-0, and scored 66 to 67 points on Kansas State and Missouri. In the process, bowl-ineligible Oklahoma finished the regular season with its 40th straight victory, and eclipsing the old collegiate record of 39 in a row that was set by the Washington Huskies in 1908 to 1914. So the Big Seven Conference may not have been a great collection of teams in 1956, and Oklahoma no doubt caught Texas and Notre Dame in down years of historical proportion. But the Sooners dominated the schedule like few teams ever had before or since. Without argument, the 1956 Oklahoma team was an all-time great collaboration of hungry, swift players molded by exacting and demanding coaches. Meanwhile, Tennessee rebounded admirably in Bowden Wyatt's second season of coaching in Knoxville. Wyatt employed the classic power run-oriented single-wing offense of his Volunteers mentor, General Robert Leland. The Volunteers used the mastery of do-it-all tailback Johnny Majors with the power running of fullback Tommy Bronson, surprise punting, and a swarming defense led by N. Buddy Cruz and tackled John Gordy. Tennessee beat the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets in a classic conservative game in November, but was upset by Baylor in an ugly Sugar Bowl intensified by a violent kicking attack on Volunteers guard Bruce Berman. Iowa surprisingly won its first Big Ten championship since 1921, thanks to the fierce line play of tackles Alex Karras and Dick Klein and N. Jim Gibbons. Vital to Iowa's fine year was Forrest Ebershevsky's conversion to the wing team offense, a puzzling misdirection attack developed at Little, Delaware by Ebershevsky's former 1940 Michigan teammate Davey Nelson. Big Ten Rose Bowl MVP Kenny Pleon masterminded Iowa's offensive trickery and power from the quarterback slot. He remains one of the greatest one-year stars whose fame was dwindled to vague memory today. Texas A&M handed Texas Christian its only Southwest Conference defeat, but was denied a Cotton Bowl trip when conference officials went against expectations and didn't lift singles late in the year. So TCU, stymied all year by a slump from star runner Jim Swink, was left to contend with the great Jimmy Brown in Syracuse in the memorable Cotton Bowl. Brown, who had scored a record 43 points against Colgate, tallied 3 touchdowns against the Horned Frogs, but one of his conversion kicks was blocked, and TCU won a thriller 28-27. His 43-point score in a single game was a mark that would last until 1990. The Ivy League opened its first official round-robin schedule as lowly Pennsylvania beat Dartmouth in early October to end the nation's longest loser streak at 19. The product of a murderous schedule, the Quakers could no longer handle as the mid-1950s arrived. Yale stumbled at mid-season against Colgate, but took the Ivy Crown with a senior-laden squad that was led by Paul DePato, Mike Alcichik, Dean Lux, Dennis McGill, and Al Ward. Yale's critical victory came in a 42-20 mid-November stampede of runner-up Princeton, as scandal ripped the Pacific Conference as the conference levied sanctions against UCLA, Southern California, California, and Washington for payment of slush funds to some players for half-baked or non-existent off-campus jobs that were naively required by the conference to supplement the mandatory 50 hours per month on-campus job that each player maintained. The PCC was the only group in college football that required this unenforceable code. The other conferences, having followed the footsteps of the Southeastern Conference and provided athletic scholarships pretty well as we know them today, that covered tuition, room, board, and books. Washington coach John Schuerberg had been fired after the 1955 season, and he vindictively blew the whistle on his school's slush fund that illegally enhanced student athlete employment. Be mindful that the uproar on the West Coast came in an era when there was a great deal of news coverage in favor of a clean brand of college pigskin. Depending upon one's perspective, this was either nobly gallant or piously hypocritical. And thus, the academicians and media found themselves cuddling together in the interest of non-professionalism or fighting at cross principles with both local teams dissembled by PCC do-gooders. The Los Angeles Times ripped the college presidents and professors whose vision clearly conflicted with football-loving alumni and general sports fans. The PCC penalties against the four schools were unusual and especially harsh, not so much on the schools but on individual players. Seems that the offending schools, whether they were individually guilty or not, were limited to participation in 5 games each, which were permitted to be arranged in consecutive blocks. USC seniors, for example, split their participation into first or second half of the year segments that divided perfectly over the 10-game schedule. Defending PCC champion UCLA all but conceded a smashing loss to Michigan on September 29th so it could align the schedule of its seniors to overlap a vengeful November 3rd match with Stanford. The school that was at the core of the whistleblowing, the Bruins crowned their year by upsetting the Indians 14-13 to help crush Stanford's Rose Bowl hopes. The big losers were the half-band seniors, many of them innocent, but whose potential pro careers were damaged. Now, the scientists at Wilson Sporting Goods developed a pebble-eyes leather for a new ball, which about 40 college students experimented with. The new surface was touted as a water repellent and much easier to grip in rain and the mud. Now, the 12 teams of the National Football League also used the new ball, but college and pro ball had little else in common in 1956, especially television. With the majority of homes in the United States furnished for the first time with black and white television sets, the NFL signed its first national contract with the CBS network, which already boasted top-rated shows like I Love Lucy, The Jackie Gleason Show, and Ed Sullivan's Toast of the Town. But under the direction of Commissioner Burt Bell, the pros wisely delivered only road games in each of the big NFL markets, and all games of regional interest to large areas of the country. For example, New York Giants games could be tuned in New York City, New England, New Jersey, and upstate New York. Los Angeles Rams contests were aired in all of Southern California and in several states east of California. The occasional game of national interest went coast to coast over the airways. Meanwhile, the NCAA presented an inflexible, sometimes drab array of matches that were arranged months in advance. Now, the milestones that took place for 1956 was that 8 old Northeast schools, which had pioneered college football in the 1800s, firmly banded together for the first time and pursued official Ivy League championship. During the process, prodigal Big Time Pennsylvania was readmitted in good graces, while bowl games and spring practice were banned by members. Brown, Columbia, Cornell, Dartmouth, Harvard, Penn, Princeton, and Yale. Michigan Normal, member of the Interstate Conference, changed its name to Eastern Michigan. And finally, football world mourned the deaths of Hall of Famer Truxton Hare, who passed at 77, 4-time All-American at Pennsylvania, and Claude Tiny Thornhill, 63, coach of 3 Rose Bowl teams at Stanford. Now, the longest winning streaks that entered the 1956 season was Oklahoma with 30 wins in a row, Miami of Ohio with 10 wins in a row, and Mississippi with 9 wins in a row. Coaching changes took place in 1956 with incoming coaches like Sam Boyd of Baylor, Hal Kopp of Brigham Young, Don Mullison of Colorado A&M, Tommy Mott of Maryland, Wade Walker of Mississippi State, Pete Elliott of Nebraska, Dick Carson, New Mexico, Jim Tatum, North Carolina, Eric Parseghian, Northwestern, Jack Malenkov, Purdue, John Steedman of Rutgers, Paul Governor of San Diego State, Warren Geese. I think it's Warren Geese, South Carolina, Pete Stevens, Temple, Ben Martin, Virginia, Paul A. Mann, Wake Forest, Darrell Roy of Washington, Jim Sullivan, Washington State, and Milt Brun, Wisconsin. Now the top 20 preseason AP poll looked like this to start the 1956 college football season. Number 1 was Oklahoma. Number 2 was Michigan State. Number 3, Notre Dame. Number 4, Georgia Tech. Number 5, Ohio State. Number 6, Maryland. Number 7, Texas Christian. Number 8, Michigan. Number 9, Texas A&M. And number 10, Pittsburgh. Army was number 11. Tennessee was number 12. Mississippi was number 13. 14, Stanford. Southern California 15. Duke 16. UCLA 17. Miami 18. Yale 19. And Illinois 20. So now I'm going to look at the games that were played on September 22nd, 1956. Look at 10 games that was played in week 1 of September 22nd, 1956. First, Pittsburgh played West Virginia. Pittsburgh was number 10 in the country, so West Virginia was unranked, as it looks right here, where Pittsburgh won against West Virginia by a score of 14-13. Outplayed and outgained 239 yards to 96 yards by fired-up Mountaineers. The favorite Pittsburgh, titled as best in the East, had to collect fumbles at 5 and 20-yard lines, respectively, to prompt short third-quarter touchdown sweeps that were scored moments apart. West Virginia fullback Larry Krutko lost handle on the first play after the Panthers' fullback punter Tom Jenkins accurately killed rolling punt at the West Virginia 3-yard line. Sub-Pitt halfback Ray DePasquale scored around left and 2 plays later for a 7-6 lead. Mountaineers halfback Ralph Anastasio lost fumble on next kickoff when he was snowed under by a gang of Panthers, and another Sub-Pitt halfback Nick Pasadelis quickly made it 14-6, skirting left end for 5 yards. West Virginia, which had pointed to opener with its biggest rival by counting down the days on locker room chalkboard, got second and fourth quarter touchdown sneaks from quarterback Mickey Tramarki. But Mountaineers tackle kicker Jim Pickett had his second conversion kick in the second quarter. Conversion kick sailed wide, and Pickett also missed a 25-yard field goal try in the fourth quarter. Was replaced by tackle kicker Dick Gessman, who was also a recipient of missing a late field goal try from 41 yards away. Meanwhile, South Carolina shut out Duke 7-0. Now, Duke was ranked number 16 in the country, so this was an upset. South Carolina beat Duke 7-0. As ACC favorite, Duke lost its first ever conference game after 3 years. Coach Bill Murray's first loss in 6 openers. Methodical Gamecocks cruised 81 yards on 18 plays, mostly option runs to score in the second quarter at a 1-yard plunge by sophomore halfback King Dixon. He had 46 yards on 14 carries and a touchdown. Drive featured fortunate 4th down catch of deflected pass by M. Julius Derrick. With 267 yards of offense, South Carolina enjoyed 193 yards to 156 yards edge on ground, and sub-guard Nelson Weston, center Charlie Johnson started on the defense in Coach Warren Geis's debut. North Carolina State defeated North Carolina by a score of 26-6. As like old Briar Rabbit going back to the Briar Patch was how Coach Jim Tatum described his return to Chapel Hill, where he started as tackle in the 1930s. Tatum and staff wore Carolina blue cowboy hats, but must have wanted to hide under them, as North Carolina State got the first win over Tar Heels in 14 years. Quarterback Tom Katich hit in John Collar for 2 of NC State's 4 touchdown throws. Tar Heels halfback Ed Sutton swept 17 yards before halfback Jim Varnum raced 19 yards to the state 20-yard line in the second quarter. Sutton then dragged 3 tackles for a 20-yard touchdown, but tackle kicker Phil Blazer missed the conversion. University of North Carolina was back in game, trailing 7-6, but Wolfpack answered immediately after 61-yard touchdown march. Highlighted by halfback Dick Christie's 17-yard run and capped by Knich's 22-yard touchdown pitch to end Bob Pepe. Afterward, Christie wanted to know, where's Jim Tatum's All-Americans now? Referring to the coach's group of stars who helped him win at Maryland. Speaking of Maryland, the number 6 team in the country, lost to Syracuse 26-12. Winners of 15 straight regular season games. Preseason number 6, Maryland got caught with long inactive lists, including oddities such as halfback Harold Dares, Yellow Jaundice, and quarterback Frank Tamborelli's pending call to military draft. Terps halfback John McVicker raced 67 yards to set up opening score by quarterback John Frisch for 6-0 lead in the first quarter. Frisch and halfback Ron Rousselvian miscued on second quarter handoff, and Syracuse end Dick Lassie snatched mid-air fumble and ran 68 yards to score for a 13-6 edge. Orangeman halfback Jimmy Brown powered for 154 yards and scored on a first quarter pass catch and a fourth quarter 3-yard run, and inserted critical 78-yard third quarter run to Terrapin 7-yard line. Subsequent Syracuse 4-yard touchdown pass from quarterback Chuck Zimmerman to halfback Jim Ritland broke it open at 19-6. Georgia Tech, number 14 in the country, defeated Kentucky 14-6 as Georgia Tech sub quarterback Toppy Van threw a perfect 5-yard touchdown pass, a jump pass to end Ted Smith at end of 80-yard second quarter drive. Keys to Tech's long effort with halfback George Volker's 20-yard dash and Van's fourth down 12-yard pass to halfback Paul Rotenberry to 8-yard line. So in the third quarter, tackle Armand Anderson convoyed Volker on a 54-yard touchdown run for a 14-0 lead. Meanwhile, Kentucky defense that was led by tackle Lou Michaels allowed only 223 yards, but offense managed but 161 yards and scored its only touchdown by quarterback Delmar Hughes with 26 seconds left after the Vans lost fumble at Yellow Jackets' 13-yard line. Florida beat Mississippi State by a score of 26-0 as sophomore quarterback Billy Stacy made his debut to lead his Maroons to overwhelming but hollow 259 yards to 93 yards of offensive advantage. The key to the verdict was Florida fullback linebacker Joe Brodsky picking off 3 interceptions and supplying hidden 162 yards and thrilling returns. Brodsky authored a 35-yard touchdown return and carried another 27 yards to set up another score. In the fourth quarter, Stacy drove Bulldogs down the field only to be hit by Gators tackle Vel Heckman as he tossed wide pass. Brodsky stepped in front of throw and whisked his third interception untouched for a 100-yard touchdown return. September's excessive heat forced him to pass out briefly while supine in end zone. Another shutout was performed by Oregon as Oregon shut out Colorado 35-0. Rugged crowd in Boulder received early warning of what was to come from marauding Ducks as the Oregon Ducks zipped 52 yards to score in 14 tidy plays early in the first quarter. Colorado looked to tie it in the second quarter when defensive back Boyd Dollar's interception was returned 33 yards to Ducks' 3-yard line, but Oregon defense rose up and stopped 4 runs that gained only 1 yard. Oregon exploded for 28 points in the second half as halfback Jim Shanley scored on a 64-yard pass from quarterback Tom Crabtree, and on a 2-yard plunge, Oregon outgained Buffalo's 444 yards to 102. Next, Southern Methodist defeated Notre Dame by a score of 19-13. In their 68th year of football, the Fighting Irish lost their first ever game in any September as SMU quarterback Charlie Arnold passed 31 yards to slandered end Boyd Wagner for first quarter touchdown, later sneaked over for 13-0 halftime lead. Notre Dame had only itself to blame because each touchdown was promoted by a variety of Irish penalties. In all, Notre Dame was flagged for 137 yards, but Irish quarterback punter Paul Hornung passed 55-yard touchdown to halfback Jim Morris in the third quarter and gambled in the fourth quarter a 57-yard fake punt run that knotted it at 13-13. As clock ticked toward apparent tie, Arnold and halfback Lon Slaughter collaborated on a 31-yard pass to the Notre Dame 14-yard line, and Arnold quickly dusted off Statue of Liberty run around left end for Slaughter's winning 14-yard touchdown sprint. And it came with 1 minute and 40 seconds left, with 1:40 left to play. Irish vainly went to Pony's 7-yard line at end, but could not score. Southern California, the number 15 team in the country, defeated Texas 44-20. As Texas made early game stop at its 39-yard line and gained short-lived 7-0 lead when quarterback Joe Clements broke around left end behind brilliant blocking for a 36-yard touchdown run. Then Southern California fullback C.R. Roberts took over, rushing 251 yards on 12 carries, including long touchdowns of 73, 50, and 74 yards. Roberts broke the USC single-game rushing record when he had been on books since 1929. Trojans tailback John Arnett propelled lead to 19-7 at halftime with 12 and 14-yard runs that followed with blocking back defensive back Wayne Krolak's second quarter interception returned to Texas' 26-yard line. Roberts clicked on his third long run early in the third quarter, and Arnett soon fired 38-yard touchdown pass to wingback Don Hickman. Longhorns tallied on a 17-yard touchdown pass by quarterback Vince Matthews to end Bob Bryant in third quarter and halfback Walt Fondren's late 4-yard run up the middle. Got one more game to talk about and then I'm done. Alright, the last game to talk about is Baylor beat California by a score of 7-6. Intersectional battle of Bears turned into sloppy opener as both Bruno teams suffered 100 yards in penalties while Baylor lost 4 fumbles and interceptions. California end defensive end Ron Wheatcroft recovered first quarter fumble by Baylor halfback Bobby Peters at Texas' 36-yard line. It took 11 plays to cash in on quarterback Gus Giannoulias' fourth down 11-yard touchdown pass to end Roger Ramsey, but extra point snap was bobbled, and holder Giannoulias got built right idea of trying to run it over goal line. Bad idea because the Baylor defense swamped him to keep score at 6-0. So early in the second quarter, Baylor fullback Ruben Sage battered to Cal 2-yard line but lost fumble to halfback defensive back Nat Brazil. Linebacker Sage quickly turned tables by causing Giannoulias to cough up the fumble to Baylor end defensive end Tony DiGrazio at California 10-yard line. Just one play later, Baylor halfback Dale Schaffner swept wide foot option pitch out, dribbled ball but kept control for touchdown as Baylor sophomore halfback kicker Arthur Jr. Beal booted vital extra point in his varsity debut. California enjoyed a balanced attack with 107 yards rushing and 188 yards passing, 7 for 28 passing. Baylor ran for 255 yards but only passed for 9 yards on 207 passing. So that concludes a look at the week that was. Week 1, September 22nd, 1956. Let's look at this AP poll that took place on September 24th, 1956, where Oklahoma was number 1, followed by Georgia Tech at number 2, Michigan State at number 3, number 4, Texas Christian, number 5, Southern Methodist, number 6, Southern California, number 7, Syracuse, number 8, Ohio State, number 9, Mississippi, number 10, Pittsburgh. Texas A&M was number 11, Stanford number 12, Michigan number 13, Notre Dame number 14, Vanderbilt number 15, Army number 16, South Carolina number 17, Oregon number 18, number 19, Florida, and North Carolina State number 20. So that concludes the look at the week that was, week 1 of September 22nd, 1956. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, comment on the channel. I'll do another video obviously tomorrow, taking a look at week 2 of the 1956 college football season. This was September 22nd, 1956, week 1. So like, subscribe, comment, and share. Subscribe, like, comment, and share on this video. Until then, talk to you tomorrow.